In this lesson, we're going to be continuing with the modeling toolkit. We're going to be going down to the components tools and how to work with these in Maya. Now, we're actually going to start at some of these lower parts here, some of these tools, and then make our way back up to extrude, because extrude is a very powerful tool, but has a lot of different settings and different things you can do with it. And it's, like I said, it's a very powerful tool, and it's a tool you use a lot in Maya. All right, so the first one, the most basic one, is add divisions. So that's pretty straightforward. As you can see here, well, you just click on it, and it'll give you a little dialog box, and then you can just type in how many divisions you would like. So if you wanted two, if you wanted more divisions, you know, you could go up to 4 if you liked, or no, 5. Let's do 4. Yeah, so if you want a lot of resolution there. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's a pretty straightforward tool. Nothing very different about it. It's basically the same as this tool here. Okay. And if you notice too, like a lot of you'll see the symbol. Sometimes they correspond there. So that's the same icon. Okay. All right. So that's it for divisions. Just a different way to access it. All right. Bevel. Bevel is fairly straightforward, but it's very powerful and a nice tool you'll want to use in the program. So say you wanted a slight smoother edge on something, what you would do is you would get the bevel tool. You have to pick on some edges. So I'm going to pick on some edges here. Okay. And then you would go to bevel. Now you'll see, now it knocked off that edge, right? But you have controls here too as well. So like say you wanted 2 segments in there, if you wanted it a little bit more smooth. Now if you really want it smooth, you're going to go to like 4 or 5 or something like that. Let me give it 5. Okay, so now you'll get a nice smooth bevel. Now this might be too much. This might be taken off. You might just want a little slight edge on there. So you would do a 0.1. Okay, so there you go. So now you would have this nice little clean edge here. You could do this all around your model as well. So we could do this again. So you had you're making like a furniture piece or something like that, and you wanted to, you know, have a little kind of cleaner look, a little more like a bevel edges there. Oops. So I have to give it all the settings I gave over there. So I give it a 0.1. And I would give it 5 segments. Okay, there you go. So now, okay, let me go over here now let's switch off our wireframe. I see now all of a sudden it's got a nice, you know, and you can add more segments in there to make it look really, really super smooth. And you could do these edges as well. All right, so that's your bevel tool. So I'm undoing. All right, now we're back to our regular cube. Okay, so that was that tool. That's very useful. And we're going to go over to bridge now. Bridge is a little different. Bridge is when you're connecting 2 different pieces. So let me go over to my layers here. I can set things up with another one of these. Okay, so for that you would need two objects. Okay, so here is where we discussed the combine before. So if I go to bridge functions basically on edges. If I wanted a bridge, it's not going to let me go from 2 separate objects. You see these are 2 separate objects here. So basically what I'd have to do is I'd have to combine them. So let me go into object mode. Let me pick on both of them, and let me go to combine. Okay, so now they're one single object here. Okay, now let me go to edge mode here, and I'll show you how this works, because we have 2 holes in this object here. So this is like, say you're modeling one object and you're modeling another object and you wanted to just start sewing them together. So this is a way to do that. Okay, so we would go to bridge. Okay, so that just will sling a polygon right between it. It bridges between 2 different objects, or 2, you know, an object with a hole in it now. So I could do this, do this. There you go. So say you were just say you modeled 2 separate objects, and say they were more complex than this cube here, but they had similar face numbers, and you wanted to put them together. You would take them, you would put them both in positions next to each other, and what you would do is then go to combine, and then you would go to bridge, okay? So I can type the G key too for the last command, okay? G just repeats the last command, okay? So there we go. Now we've bridged those two models, okay? All right, so that's enough for these here. Let me switch off these two, or with a single unit now. Oops, now it's actually, sorry, I always forget. Once you've actually combined it, it's a new object. So let me put that onto this layer. Always remember too, like, yeah, when you do these operations, you're gonna have to, there's gonna be a little bit of cleanup. Like here now, there's like weird stuff with old groups that were existing, so you'll have to clean some stuff up. But you'll all get used to that later on in the class. So let me go to add selected object to that layer. Okay, so there you go. Now it's gone. All right. So now let's go back to the modeling toolkit. So now we're going to get to a powerhouse tool, which is the extrude tool. Okay. So extrude works really well with faces. You can do it with edges. It doesn't really work as well with vertices, but with faces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a face, and I'm going to go to extrude. Okay, now you see this little widget here. So now this is doing something. So if we pull on it, oh, look what happens. It gave us a new section here. So if you wanted to just to model something out like this, you could do so. So now I also use that G key. This is where G key comes in useful, the use command again, because now I don't want to have to keep going back over here to extrude. So I could just type G, or if you wanted, say you did something else, say you wanted to go over here now. So now we could go to extrude, and then I extrude this direction, okay? And say I wanted to, I can extrude, and it'll go over there again. So if I want to make it longer, okay, you can do whatever you want with it, okay? So let me do another thing too. All right, now, so I say at the top here, here's something else you can do with extrude. You can, all right, I'm gonna go to extrude, hit extrude, so now I've got the tool, it's popped up. You can type in numbers here too, so there's other things you can do as well. But right now we're just gonna work with the basics. So there's another thing you can do as well. You can scale with extrude, not only pulling, but so to get the scaling, as you know, just as with moving, the boxes mean scaling, okay, in your transform tools. So just click on any one of them. And if you click on any one of them, now you've shifted into the scale mode. Now, the key thing to do here, you can scale in a direction, but the key thing to do is to pick on the center scale cube there, and then press on it, then start scaling on that. Now, this has done something very interesting, and you will use this a lot, I can promise you, in Maya. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to extrude. Oops, I have to pick on the face. Pick on the face. Extrude. I'm going to pull this up. So now you see what's happened. So now it has another loop of edges here. See these here? So and that stayed planar. It's on the same plane, but it's now internalized here. So now if I go to pick my edges, so if I go pick here, shift select, I can keep picking on these, okay? And those are also movable as well. That's the great thing about components. You can pick things by whatever level it is you want. So here, let me show you what I can do now. So if I wanted to actually make a kind of like a slanted kind of area here, kind of like a smokestack or something like that, I could do this. Now, there's another cool thing about these things as well, is to say you want to pick them, but say you don't want to have to go shift select all the way around. You can double click, okay? Now, this is something we're going to get into. If a series of edges are connected, it's called an edge loop. Edge loops are super important when you do very complex polygon modeling, and we'll do a whole bunch of lessons on that, especially when we get to like character modeling. The character modeling edge loops become super important because they also tie into animation. but they're also totally used in all aspects of product design modeling and automotive modeling in Maya, like especially like in cars. Like the lines are super important. I can't stress how important lines are, because they're basically, I mean, when you draw something and you have a specific kind of curve on something, it's the same thing in the Maya model. All right. So, but also too, like if we wanted to as well, if I wanted to pick by vertices, we can do that as well. And we'll get into more of this later, but I just want to show everybody what can be done here with these. Okay. So now, say I wanted to, scale that down a little bit. Okay. So that's some of the key things about extruding, and we will create a whole model just starting with a box, just between extruding and moving points around. You literally can make the most complex models, and by adding a few what they call edge loops and kind of modifying. So just between one of those image planes I've been telling everybody about, a box, a bunch of extrusions, a bunch of subdivisions, and adding edge loops and moving points around, you can make as complex a model as you can imagine in Maya. Okay, so that's it for this part. We're going to leave off at components, and then when we get back, we will move on to tools. Okay, all right.